Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third episode of the Cricket Judge podcast. Whilst you're watching, please don't forget to subscribe. I have a very talented all-rounder who used to play for Kent, so I'd like to welcome Adam Ball. So, hello, Adam, how are you?
Hi, Dipesh. How are you? Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
I'm very well, thank you. Everything going well during lockdown?
Yep, glad to be on the other side of it.
Yeah,
We've managed to get through two now, so yeah, hopefully onwards and upwards from here.
excellent. So, your case is very interesting because having done some research about you, we're going to start from the beginning of your career. So, from what I've read, that you were involved in a number of sports and you excelled at a lot of them. So, you're one of those people who are actually talented at almost everything he did. So, I was just wondering if you could go at the start of your career and go and just tell us how it all began.
Yeah, so I suppose, as you mentioned, I was one of those annoying people that when it comes to sport, anything I threw my hand at, I was particularly talented at, and sort of, I suppose, just managed to pick it up. I had a bit of an eye for a ball and understood a bit of sort of body movement and coordination and stuff like that, and was just able to pick up sort of anything I threw my hand at. I think naturally, as a young kid growing up, most kids first throw their hand to football, and that was my first sport that I started playing. I joined a club called Long Lane, which is just a local club from where I'm from in the southeast of London, and yeah, I was playing. I think I started there when I was sort of 5 or 6, doing all the little tot stuff. And I'm a Charlton fan. I remember doing the junior red stuff and that. So yeah, that was my first point of call. I ended up at under nines playing for Arsenal. I got an academy contract there at the age of 9. Managed to play there. I was there for a couple of years. Until I was 12. Yeah, I had a bit of an interesting way I come out of it because I was unfortunate. I had Sever's disease, which sounds a bit worse than what it actually is, but it's just growing pains in your heels. So a bit like Oscar Slatters of the knee. This was of the heel, and I had 2 bouts of that, and basically I had sort of 2 bouts of bed rest for sort of 3 months at a time. Now, as an 11 and 12-year-old, you can imagine that was pretty tough to sit around and do nothing for 3 months. So yeah, that sort of put that sort of on hold. And when I got back into playing again, I just started playing rugby at school, and for whatever reason, I don't know why, I just absolutely loved it. And I ended up, coming out of football and basically turning my hand to rugby. Now, looking back on it, I was probably a little bit more, I don't know what the best way of saying this, but I suppose, carefree, and was just was willing to throw myself into ridiculous tackles and throw myself about like most rugby players do. Now, the thought of playing a game now, I'm not sure you'd be catching me on a rugby field anytime soon. But yeah, so that's how I ended up coming out of football. And interesting story that I first spoke to my dad when we come out the first lockdown, actually, about this story, because I turned around to my dad, age 12, and said, "Oh, I don't want to play football anymore." Now, obviously, as a dad, listening to that when your kid's at Arsenal, I can imagine was pretty tough to hear. Now, him being an amazing dad that he was, just turned around and said, "Yep, that's fine. We'll go over to Arsenal tomorrow and tell them that you're not playing," because he essentially obviously gave up a lot of his life to take me around the country playing football and over to training and all that. So if I didn't want to do it, he wasn't prepared to take me and spend all the hours doing it. So yeah, we had a bit of a heart to heart about that, and as you can imagine, it hit him a bit more than I thought. But I suppose because I ended up becoming a cricketer, that sort of part of my life, I suppose, got brushed aside and didn't really if I didn't become a cricketer, it could have been, oh, what if I'd have carried on playing football and what could have been and stuff like that. So I suppose even obviously then going on to cricket, that was still happening in the background, but very sort of loosely. I only started playing when I was 11. So I only got introduced to it when I was in year 6. And essentially, again, I just turned up to one of these softball things that got advertised at school. And yeah, the guy just said to my dad, well, your kid needs to come and play cricket. And I ended up going down to Bexley Cricket Club. And again, within that, my first year of playing, I was at Kent, trialled at Kent. Again, another interesting story. Because I was playing for Arsenal at the time, I had to, on that day, we had to get our photo taken. So I went all the way over to Howell End, where Arsenal still train now, the youngsters, and had my photo taken, and then travelled all the way down to Canterbury to have my trial. Now, I remember pretty vividly, I definitely was wearing whites and I had black trainers on, my black Nike trainers that I'd worn to football because I forgot my cricket my cricket shoes. So straight away, I can't imagine I had put on a great impression. And I'm pretty sure I didn't have the greatest of sessions. I was bowling balls into the nets and God knows what was going on after a pretty sort of hectic morning in the car and travelling from one end of London to the other. I got into the Kent system under 11, and I suppose I didn't really look back from there in terms of how I progressed. I suppose I started at under 11 when I could get into the academy at under 14. I was in the academy, and then probably year on year up until I was sort of 18, 19, there was just that continuous sort of step up the ladder type thing. So under 14, I was in the Kent Academy. Under 15s was then Bunbury Festival and England under 15s. Under 16s, I then got picked to go and play with the England under 19s over in New Zealand. And then once that happened, I then got selected to be the captain of the next under 19s. So it sort of just happened quite chronologically, I suppose, in that it was sort of that step, until I obviously ended up getting I got my first contract after I'd finished that first season at that first England under 19 tour to New Zealand, and then sort of the following season played my first county game, which was a one-day game up at Durham, and then after that it was becoming captain of the England 19 team. So it sort of happened, I suppose, pretty quickly, but it was amazing how quickly it just all happened, and I suppose quite chronologically, and just before I knew it, I was playing in Kent's first team.
When you started playing for the England in the 19s, I believe you were around 16-ish at the time, in around 2009, am I correct?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
During that time when you made your debut for the England under 19s, what other players were around that system, around the under 19s, if you recall?
Yeah, so it's basically quite a few of the England players now. So there was Josh Butler, Ben Stokes, Joe Root, James Vince. You had then Matt Dunn, who's at Surrey now, Nathan Buck, who's at Northants, David Payne, who's at Gloucester, Chris Dent, who's at Gloucester, Atiq Javed, who's at Leicester. So that team that we had, I don't really know how we didn't win the World Cup, to be honest. It was a ridiculous team. And we ended up losing to to the West Indies actually, and they had Jason Holder who bowled us out. I got a fifer. I suppose maybe we can blame it on him having a day out, and he's obviously turned into a pretty special cricketer as well. So, but yeah, I obviously straight away the names that come out there, I was very fortunate to play with them guys, and then also obviously along my career, a lot of other big names that I was able to play with and against during my time as playing. I suppose very privileged to be able to see obviously what they did, and how they went about their business to obviously get where they have now.
So, do you know what else you played for the under-19s? Who did you think that, wow, this guy's going to be a star? Like, he's going to be the next international cricketer. A lot of those players you mentioned have gone on to play some sort of international cricket or good level of county cricket. Which one did you think at the time that this is the guy to keep an eye on?
Yeah, so I think Josh Buttler was definitely one. Him and James Vince were definitely the standouts out at that age group. Were just so talented, hit the ball so cleanly as they even do now. And then Stokes as well, again, he was just a genuine all-rounder, bowled relatively quickly, smashed the ball to all parts, and was a gun fielder. So I'd say them three, you probably would have put some money on them making it, and obviously they have. The one that's surprising is Joe Root.
Really?
How quickly he progressed, because he was a good player, don't get me wrong, but he wasn't necessarily the most talented. And again, probably the same now. If you choose who you wanted to watch out of Ben Stokes and Joe Root, or Josh Buttler and Joe Root, you're probably going to say one of the others apart from Joe. But what was noticeable at that age, his work ethic and the way he went about his business, it was just relentless. Like he would just hit so many balls, would be the last one in the nets. And again, I suppose that's where the other side of it comes in, is that you've got probably the likes of Stokes and Buttler that had, all right, they obviously have worked hard, but they probably had the natural flair and natural talent to go with that work, hard work, where Joe Root probably didn't necessarily have that natural talent, but just went down the route of working hard, understanding his game as much as he could, and reap the rewards that way. So I suppose, two very different ways of going about getting to the top level, really.
As you mentioned earlier, you went on to captaining the under-19 side. So is captaincy that came something naturally to you when you were given it, or is it something that was just put upon you without you wanting it?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, it's an interesting question, really, because you don't ever really know what it takes to be a captain until you've been one, do you? And I suppose it's the same as sort of in the business world, a manager or leading some sort of team. And I think, again, it just the way that I am, or the way that I was, I think it came pretty natural to me, in that I spoke well in front of a group. I got on with everyone. I tried to understand a lot more about each individual player, as opposed to just sticking to my own thing. And I suppose it came quite natural to me to do it. I think, again, I was, even still now, I was quite mature for my age at the time. And I suppose what also helped was that within my game, I knew my game pretty well then. I felt like I was in a great place with it then. So I had the time and energy to be able to spend on doing the captaincy, as well as obviously looking after my own game. But that sort of, again, because I was in a good frame mentally, I felt like I understood what I was doing, and that I could then express my energy elsewhere. Which I suppose, is again, when you're relating it to business, is that you've got someone, or whatever line of work, you've got someone that's been there for a period of time, that understands what they're doing, knows what their day looks like, and is then able to then express their energy elsewhere, to make sure that other people are okay, doing their job properly. If they need any help and stuff like that. So yeah, I wouldn't say that it come as a surprise. I suppose, without thinking about it, made it a done deal, I suppose.
Excellent. So it's the year after, in 2010, where you made your debut for Kent, and you said it was against Durham in a one-day game. So do you remember that game? And secondly, how did you feel making your debut for Kent?
Yeah, so I do remember it. I got Ben Harmison out, actually, who ended up being it's obviously the brother of Steve. He ended up being a colleague of mine at Kent later on down the line. So that was quite interesting. I suppose, yeah. Look, it was a great achievement to get to that point. Playing for Kent as well, my home county, putting on that shirt, wearing that badge, was a pretty special occasion. And I suppose, again, Durham, although it's miles away, it's a pretty special place, and a great place to play cricket. So yeah, look, I couldn't have asked for it to have gone any better, really. And yeah, just getting, I suppose, a great thanks to the guys that obviously gave me the opportunity to be able to do it, and contributed to all of my career up until that point.
Well, you're speaking about Durham. I know Durham's definitely a good night out.
It
certainly is a special place for me. But yes, excellent. So, what is your favourite memory actually playing for Kent?
I suppose it would have been, not that year, it would have been the year 2011, when I started playing in the 2020 team. So I think I would have been 17 or 18 at the time. And yeah, I was in a bowling attack of Wahab Riaz, Shal Langabell, Azam Mahmood, and James Treadwell.
Wow.
And then there was me as the 17, 18-year-old boy, not really knowing what was going on too much. And we got to the quarterfinals that year, and we played at Leicester, and unfortunately we lost. But I suppose, yeah, playing in that team, and I suppose playing such a vital role where myself and James Treadwell just would bowl pretty much 8 overs every game in the middle of an innings, and I'd probably pick up a wicket or two and bowl pretty economically. And I suppose it was amazing to be involved with a team that I suppose knew exactly what was going on in any given day, and exactly what was going on from a batting and a bowling point of view. Obviously, at that time it was Rob Key involved. Joe Denley was still at the club, so them two were opening the batting. And yeah, one of the best opening partnerships in T20 cricket. I think that there's ever been in county cricket. So yeah, it was a great opportunity for me to, I suppose, just be surrounded by a lot of experienced cricketers that were able to guide me and help me along the way. as well as obviously learn from the experiences myself. So I think that was definitely my biggest highlight, playing for Kent.
Playing with all those successful players, when you first met them, is there any one of those in particular who slightly overwhelmed you? Because you're obviously playing with Azhar Mahmood, who played 100 plus ODIs for Pakistan, and then you got Rob Key and Joe Denley and Charles Langeveld, who was successful for South Africa. So is there anyone that you felt overwhelmed with when you first met them?
Yeah, I suppose that's the thing. When you're young, you're just young and naive, aren't you? And you don't really, you take, and again, I think I was, I suppose, very good at this in terms of, I didn't really look into all of that sort of stuff in terms of like what people had done. I suppose I just took them for who they were more as a person and what they did within my experience of seeing them. Because again, and I think this is where going forward, and again, lots of people have reputations, don't they? And you end up playing with someone based on what other people, or playing against someone and having that initial idea about what they do, who they are, and then you can almost, obviously the worst thing to do is treat them as something that they're not, in terms of that they're better than what they are, type thing. And I think that's the hardest thing about cricket, is that at the end of the day, all it is there's another cricket ball coming towards you when you're batting, and another ball and another person batting in front of you, standing there in front of you waiting to receive the ball. And I think when I was in my great frame of mind, is that was my thinking, was that it didn't matter who I was bowling to and who I was facing, is that it was just another cricket ball coming down at me, or another batter to try and get out, and essentially just stuck to what I needed to do to be successful at that given stage. I think, again, naturally, most people think that these people that have done what they have in the game are sort of, I suppose, yeah, you can't approach them, you can't. Yeah, that's it. You can't speak to them. But at the end of the day, yeah, they are just normal people. They do the same things as well what we do. And yeah, they just love what they do and enjoy and go out, enjoy themselves and have some fun and be good at what they do.
You answered that like such a professional. See, that mentality, that's a different. This is why you played professional cricket and some fool like me didn't. Because whenever I'd go to a cricket match, like I wasn't that good at. I had a good cricketing mind, but I wasn't that good at playing cricket. But again, like as a fan, you get so overwhelmed, regardless of whoever's. I remember when I was younger, even if it was like a physio, I'd just be asking for the autograph. Like, look, you've got a kit on this. Just sign it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's exactly that's it. It's just it's trying to, I suppose, understand the reality of what's going on, rather than getting caught up in that this person's like what you said, a superhero, or have these ridiculous powers. But yeah, they're just normal people. They're more than happy usually to have a conversation with you. And again, I was very good at that. Is that, again, I'm intrigued. The way that I am intrigued to understand how people work and what they do and stuff like that. Because yeah, the nature of the beast is that we are all completely different and have all completely different beliefs, and you try and, I suppose, get as much information as you can to then build up your beliefs and views on stuff. That's why, yeah, I never ever sort of didn't entertain anyone that either wanted an autograph or wanted to have a chat after a game or something like that.
Excellent, that's brilliant. So in today's world, so what do you make of the game today? So cricket has moved on so much, just even in the last 2 or 3 years. Now they're talking about the 100-ball tournament coming that's meant to be played in England. Then you've got the IPL apparently now expanding from 8 teams to 10 teams. Then right now, as we speak, we've got the Sri Lankan Premier League. We've got so many T20 leagues. And what do you make of it right now with cricket?
Yeah, well, I think it's obviously exciting times for the game because it's expanding massively. This T20 is one bringing a lot of new people to the game that wouldn't have, especially youngsters, wouldn't have necessarily thought of playing cricket. I think obviously England winning the World Cup in this country specifically has helped. But I think also obviously worldwide having these competitions is definitely spreading the word for the game of cricket. In terms of for the game of cricket itself, I again obviously haven't played it. I don't know whether it's good because it generates money, which at the end of the day, unfortunately, that's what makes the world go round. So that, that's why all of these things are happening.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of the game, I think that the biggest challenge and the best players are the test players. That you just can't, I don't know, describe the mental strain and the mental capabilities that you need to be successful at that level. There's technical, tactical, physical. Everything is put under pressure at that in the test arena. In a 2020 competition, in a 2020 game, I'd say that not average cricketers, but a lot of people that I wouldn't class as world class are getting paid very well to play 20, to be 2020 specialists. And I don't know whether that should be the way it is, but in terms of from an entertainment value and from generating revenue and money, it's obviously completely the way forward for cricket to go, because in test match cricket over here, yeah, absolutely fine. You go to the West Indies or you go to South Africa, unless it's at Newlands. When all the English are out there, and there's probably more English people in the ground than South Africans. The grounds are just empty, and if people are not watching it, then players can't be paid. So, I think it's exciting for the just general public. Get involved. A lot of people love it, going up to the Oval on a Friday night, having a few drinks, not really knowing what's going on, but just enjoying it. For someone that I suppose that's played the game and understands the game a lot more, I think, there's so much more that goes into playing Test cricket and understanding the little battles that are going on. Where with T20, don't get me wrong, you've got to have the skill, but it's a lot more luck than judgment. I think if someone has a day out.
I agree. I fully agree, because again, whenever I look out for a series for like England, I'm not too bothered about the 50 over even or the 20. I always look at how many test matches they're playing.
Yeah.
I do get pissed off when they have these series where they only play 2 test matches, for example. I think a test series should have minimum of 3, but should have 5. But even in county cricket, again, if I do get around to watching Surrey or Leicestershire, I will go, but I'd watch it on Sky. But usually the games on Sky are one-day games or T20 games. But I always keep up with the 4-day games, because for me, I want to see who's up and coming. Because for me, if you're good at 4-day cricket, you're going to, in my eyes, you're a good cricketer and you're probably going to make it to that next level. And you're right, in relation to T20 cricket, you could be a bit of a slogger or not as talented, but because you're only bowling 4 overs and, coming in at number 6 and playing for 10 balls or something, you can get away with being not as talented as a Test cricketer. Yes, a very good way of putting it.
Yeah, I suppose just, again, if for anyone obviously watching that aspiring is that, and again, I do some coaching now. So the way I try to coach is to get the fundamentals. Obviously, naturally, lots of kids, I want to play reverse sweeps, paddle sweeps and all that. But, and the whole power hitting and trying to smash the ball out of the ground. But you can't do that unless you've got the fundamentals and the basics of being able to understand the technique. Because at the end of the day, the way that you score runs and score big runs is by having a good, solid technique and having the fundamentals. You then learn how to then adapt that to then be able to play all the funky shots, to score quicker, and stuff like that. And that's what I think is why, a little bit with my own career, why I potentially may not have gone on, is because I started my career playing 2020 cricket. So I had to bowl basically everything but a good length ball. Now, that doesn't make sense, really, does it? You know what I mean? If you play cricket, you understand cricket, you know that to be good, you've got to be able to hit top of off stump pretty much 9 times out of 10. Mm-hmm. And when I was playing 2020 cricket, if you bowled that, you went for 6. Mm-hmm. So I had to learn how to bowl Yorkers, bowl slower balls, and pretty much not bowl any length balls. And then obviously going back to them playing 4-day cricket, from a bowling point of view, I struggled a little bit because actually I didn't really know how to just bowl the same ball every ball, because I was thinking about bowling all sorts of different balls. So in terms of any youngsters watching this, I think getting the fundamentals and almost trying to play as much longer format cricket as you can in the early part of your career will then stand you in good stead to then transfer to that shorter format rather than doing it the other way round. Don't get me wrong, I had great fun doing it as a 17-year-old playing in front of packed houses, but it probably didn't do my career too many favours.
I was listening to Shane Warne and Mudley on Sky a few weeks ago, actually, and they were saying when they were younger, what they would do is in the nets, they'd put a ball in the nets at a length that they want to pitch it, and they'd spend hours and hours just bowling and trying to hit that ball in the net. And is that a technique you would suggest for youngsters to use, people who are aspiring to be bowlers, whether it's fast bowlers or spinners or?
Well, yeah, 100%. I think whatever it is, it doesn't have to be a ball. It can just be a cone or a 50p piece, if you want to get that accurate. But yeah, that's essentially what it is just repetition. And the thing is still, it's all well and good, obviously, them being able to do that, but then it's understanding how to transfer that into a game as well. Mm-hmm. When the time is to do that, when do I then need to maybe bowl it a little bit wider, a little bit fuller, a little bit shorter? So it's because again, that's why the game of cricket is such a great game, is because on any given day, someone can come up and bowl a certain length and be unbelievable. The next day they bowl exactly the same length and it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And that's the beauty of it, is that, I suppose, definitely hone in on being as accurate as you can, but also understand that length that you're potentially looking to bowl doesn't always work on every single wicket. And that's where the bit of game nous comes in, and a bit of thinking about it works. And that's, I suppose, where I was quite good. I thought about the game and understood what other people were trying to do and that, as opposed to sort of being, I wouldn't necessarily look. I was talented, but I wasn't as talented as these guys that are playing for England. I just, I suppose, had that little bit of technical mental nous type thing to sort of try and be one step ahead of people and understand how to bowl on different wickets and what was effective and what wasn't. So yeah,
of course. And just for, as you're obviously coaching, so for a batsman, so people who are aspiring to be a batsman, would you say the first thing to master would be like a forward defense or a defensive shot?
Yeah, I think obviously what I found is that most people go to that, a forward defensive or a cover drive. Now, what I'd probably do for anyone starting out is they've got to understand how to play a ball that is going to hit them, because naturally it's very unnatural. When you think about hitting a ball, golf, it's used to get out of the way to hit it. Baseball, get out of the way to hit it. Badminton, tennis, everything. You're always getting out of the way, your body out of the way to hit the ball. When you're playing cricket, you've got to understand how to hit the ball when it's going to come at you and hit you. Because so many kids and so many people try and get out of the way to then hit the ball. So I'd say actually, all right, yeah, that's fine. Doing your forward defence, but try and get the feel of understanding how to hit a ball that is going to hit you without moving from your stance, because that's literally what every single kid does, because they're frightened of getting hit, but also feel like they can't get any power. Now again, the little kids at 10, 11, they don't get any reward for playing a defensive shot or playing a cover drive, playing a leg glance off their pads. So it's a tough one, because naturally everyone goes, oh yeah, do the pull shot because you're going to score runs doing that. But actually, when you get older, playing a pull shot is very few and far between, where you don't play too many of them. But playing a cover drive, a forward defensive, a leg glance, you become so much more successful doing that, where at age 10 and 11 you're not, because there's not enough pace on the ball to be able to do it. So it's a real fine balance between obviously trying to get them successful here and now, but getting them to understand the time element of all right, you might not necessarily be as successful now because you're playing correctly and there's not enough pace on the ball. But when you get older, when there is pace on the ball, you've got the technique and the foundations to be able to deal with that. And that's obviously quite hard to tell a 10, 11-year-old when he's playing the perfect forward defence and it's not going anywhere. And he's like, yeah, well, I don't score any runs doing that.
Right. It's a brilliant way that you put that, getting used to the ball coming towards you, because I never had it articulated like that. So that's brilliant. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I do. I like doing, again, for anyone watching, I like doing a drill where you get someone to stand on one foot.
Okay.
So on their front foot. So if you get them on their front foot and a little bend in the knee so that their weight is over the ball, then throw the ball at them. They can't move. So then they've got to get in a position, if the ball's coming at them, to hit the ball. If they try and play cross bat, they'll get hit, unless they're obviously got very good hand-eye coordination. If they play with a straight bat and get their hands in front of their body, they'll start understanding how to hit the ball when the ball's at them. Because then the next thing is obviously going back and doing that. Because that's where obviously a lot of people struggle, when the ball starts coming in their chest area, because it's not very pleasant.
So with all this wisdom that you have, I know you're in the business world at the moment, being quite successful with properties and everything. Do you have aspirations of, I know you're coaching at the moment, do you have aspirations of coaching, like going down the county route or international route? Is that something you aspire to do?
Yeah, so I suppose as you mentioned, I've got a few things going on. One of them obviously being coaching, and I suppose I'm very open-minded at the moment. When I first come out of the game, I wouldn't have necessarily have said that coaching was for me. It wasn't. The idea of working with kids and that, it didn't really appeal to me at that time. I think now I've been able to go away and do some, I suppose, understand what a proper job is, and experience that side of life. Starting to understand actually how much knowledge and how much I've got to give back to these kids, not only just from a cricket point of view, but just sort of life in general and how to go about it, and good values and stuff like that. So, there's obviously that side of coaching in terms of the younger side of it. There's obviously then in the professional game, which at the moment I haven't had any experience at, but I'm currently doing my level 3 qualification. So obviously once I get that, I'd probably then potentially start looking at seeing if I can go in and potentially get some exposure to some of the county teams in terms of what they do on a day-to-day basis, and just, I suppose, getting a little bit of work experience from that point of view to see, one, whether I obviously enjoy it, and two, just to obviously start building my coaching knowledge at that sort of level. Now, obviously, I've got the understanding of the game and that I've played at that level. So that obviously is the first hurdle over. But then understanding how to act and how to deal with the different sort of challenges within that sort of environment, I'll be keen to sort of have a look at. So, yeah, who knows what the future holds. I think I'm in a position, fortunately, where I've got a few things going on, and who knows where it goes. One thing could sit away for a while whilst one thing picks up, and vice versa. I suppose exciting times, really.
Certainly sounds it, for sure, and I'm sure you'll do well anyway, because you sound like you know your stuff, and definitely got the mindset, and you're naturally talented as well. So you've made that successful transition from cricket into the corporate world and coaching. So again, you're like a role model for everyone, really. Applying themselves and working hard. Brilliant.
Yeah,
excellent.
Maybe.
No,
kind words.
No, but it's true for sure. But would you say cricket has helped your career now? So excluding the coaching, so the other aspects of your career at the moment, would you say that all the experiences you had in cricket has helped you where you are now?
100%. There's, again, if you look at it, quite a lot of cricketers, again, I think the PCA at the moment are putting a big push on it. I don't know if you follow them on LinkedIn or Twitter or anything, on I suppose, covering a lot of guys that are transitioning out of cricket. And I suppose the biggest thing that what being a professional sportsman gives you is that discipline and that work ethic. Just simple things of turning up on time, working hard, and doing what you need to do. I think, like just going into some of the environments I've been in, and the amount of people that do the bare minimum just essentially to get their paycheck at the end of the month is amazing. And I suppose it just being coming from sport as well, you're competitive, so you want to try and be I'm a nightmare because I want to try and be the best at anything I throw my hand at, or not necessarily the best, but be as good as I can be at that. Perfect example is at the moment I'm just getting into my golf, and I'm a nightmare at the moment. I'm down the range. And during this lockdown we just had, I've been itching to try and hit some balls and stuff like that, because I'm starting to understand the swing and starting to hit some balls that, like, I've never hit them before on a golf course. So I had a few lessons and stuff like that. And it wasn't that, again, I wasn't rubbish before, but I could hit the ball and get round, but it just wasn't enjoyable. Where now I feel like I can go out there and hit some good shots and start sort of, I suppose, competing at a reasonable level. So yeah, it's just that thing that's built into that's naturally built into sportsmen. That is I suppose an asset to any business, really. And also naturally, because of what we do, we have a massive network. Like, that's where I've been so fortunate that I've been able to do it and just build such a big network all over the world that I can tap into going forward.
Of course.
So yeah, that's where, again, any sort of people that are in business, any people that own their own business and are looking for hardworking individuals and people that are willing to learn and stuff like that, I'd recommend trying to tap into to cricketers, because I think most of them as well will have gone to uni, would have got a degree, and also they do have a lot of time. They'll have the whole winter off, so they're able to do work experience. They're able to do exams and stuff like that whilst they're in their off season. They have a full 6 months,
of
as
course,
opposed to someone like a footballer that would only have sort of 6 weeks, if that. So there's a lot of time we have a lot of time on our hands to do, I suppose, the extracurricular stuff that helps with that transition going forward.
Yes, and you're right about that, because again, having researched a lot of cricketers who played internationally or county level, and having looked at their LinkedIn, for example, a lot of them seem to be very well educated or have made a very successful transition from cricket into the business world or whatever world that they've gone into. So yes, definitely making the most of the time. But before we conclude, I've got a few questions, quick fire questions I'd like to ask you. So firstly, who is your favourite cricketer of all time?
I think it would have been Andrew Flintoff. Growing up, 2005 Ashes, he was sort of my idol growing up. And I think he was obviously, I suppose he's very similar to what Ben Stokes is like now, where he was obviously a fantastic cricketer, but also had that bit of personality and wasn't necessarily. Yeah, that's it. Had a few misdemeanors and stuff like that. So I think he's definitely up there.
Excellent. Don't be biased with this one, but who do you say, Alistair Cook's better or David Warner? And why?
Yeah, I think, again, comparing individuals is very tough, because they're very. So they are two completely different cricketers, although they both bat left-handed. I think Alistair Cook, obviously, again, probably a bit like what I said earlier, from a talent point of view, is nowhere near where David Warner is. You'd much rather watch David Warner bat compared to Alistair Cook. But you've got to admire Alistair Cook's mental frame of mind and his mental capacity and his short grit and determination to just score run after run after run after run. So again, I think that whole sort of test match 2021 day sort of thing that's where I admire someone like Alistair Cook, is that someone that isn't necessarily talented but makes the most of what they can do. They can in Test cricket, where someone like David Warner, you'd say much more talented, but has he really got to his true full potential?
Mm.
Maybe not.
Mm.
But don't get me wrong, a very good cricketer.
Fair enough. Who do you think's a better spin bowler, Shane Warne or Mudley?
I think Murali, you got being able to spin it both ways. He was just, whether he chucked it or not, who knows? But he wasn't found out, so not guilty until proven. Yeah, that's it. Not guilty until proven. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think Murali was pretty special. And he was a Kent guy. He was a Kent guy as well. Yeah, not that I ever come across him, but
yeah. And I just wanted to ask you. I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. Is the best 1 to 11 players you played with and against in the one team?
Wow.
And you played with a lot of good players, obviously. So I know it's a bit difficult.
Yeah. I think probably, obviously, our opening the batting would have to be Rob Key.
Mm-hmm.
Played a lot with him, and obviously he was pretty special. Well, you have put me on the spot there. Again, I played against Alistair Cook, so he can get in there with opening the bat. He's obviously pretty. Well, I suppose again it depends what format, but I'll try and have a range in there.
4-day game. Let's say like a 4-day game.
All right, so yeah, Key, Alistair Cook. If we had to go at 3, bit of, not many people probably have heard of this guy, but a guy called Martin van Jaarsveld.
Yep, South African. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He was coming towards his sort of end of his career when I was just starting, and an amazing guy, and just pure ball striker. Very good in both formats as well, 1 day and Test cricket, not Test cricket, 4-day cricket. Just a great all-round cricketer, and a typical South African. I remember a great story about him actually. I was playing in a warm-up game up at Nottinghamshire, and I was at Nottinghamshire in their away dressing room. There's like a little extra bit on the back, so we was out there, and my dad was like messaging me. He was like, "What's the score? I can't see it anywhere." So I was like, "Oh, my dad's such a badger." I messaged him, and he went mad at me. He was like, "Don't ever call your dad a badger." And it also another story about him is that every morning, you had to go up and greet him with a handshake.
Okay.
And say, "Good morning, Mr. Jaarsveld."
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, again, obviously can be seen as pretty daunting, but again, I suppose just a little bit of showing respect, and I suppose great guy for like the whole values and stuff like that I was able to learn off.
Because he's the guy who had a very high batting stance, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
To Johnny Bairstow, who that a little bit, I recall. It's a good player.
Yeah, that's it.
Number 4.
Yeah, so I played against Steve Smith in an Australian tour game, so I think we'll get Steve Smith in there. He was he's obviously pretty special. I think obviously playing with Stokes in the England under-19s, he can get in at 5. And then, don't know whether it's controversial, but I think he definitely deserves getting in there for being a complete county stalwart. And that's Darren Stevens at 6.
I think he's still playing, isn't he?
Yeah, he's still going. I think he's 44 this year.
Yeah.
So I think as a number 6. And again, obviously at the moment now he's sort of seen more of his from a bowling point of view, but some of the innings I see him play in but all formats were just ridiculous. A proper clean striker of the ball, and yeah, a great guy as well. So yeah, from my keeper, I'll probably have Geraint Jones in there. He was pretty formidable when I was at Kent. We got a few dismissals actually when playing in that 2020. He used to stand up to me quite a bit. So yeah, we'll have Geraint Jones in at 7. Then at 8, I think I'd go 3 seamers and a spinner. So 3 seamers, I'd definitely have Ryan Harris in there. I faced him in a 4-day warm up game for them, and he bowled a heavy ball and moved the ball both ways. Pretty special bowler in my eyes. I think I've faced Mark Wood a couple of times. Again, he's obviously gone on to bowl pretty quick at times and be able to swing the ball both ways. And I fortunate enough to face him and score some runs against him actually. And his skills were just on point, and he was very quick. And I remember he bowled me that he was playing. We always used to play Kent and Essex combined versus a Durham team. Like when Durham win their pomp, like they used to come down as second team, ridiculous teams, and so you'd have like Wood and Plunkett when Plunkett was up there as well. They'd be coming down to play, so always looking forward to that one. But Mark Wood bowled me this ball. It was before lunch, and he was like, "Right, yeah, I'm gonna come around the wicket and make it as uncomfortable as possible." And he bowled this ball that literally just missed me by like that much, and I probably only moved by that much as well. I just went like that, and I was like, "Oh my god, that was rapid." So yeah. He can be in there. From a spinner, I got to face Syed Ajmal.
Oh yeah, he was amazing.
Yeah, so he was pretty special. So I think we'll get Syed Ajmal in there. And then last bowler, maybe a left armer. Could have, we'll go with, I don't know. I think either Wahab Riaz or Dougie Bollinger.
I think. But I remember, Bollinger was a beautiful bowler. He was.
Really So Bollinger played for Kent for a year. He was good value. Complete nutcase. So there's some good stories about him. He was good fun. So I think for a red ball point of view, we'd probably go with Doug Bollinger. If it was a white ball game, we might go with Wahab Riaz. But yeah, two pretty special bowlers. So yeah, not a bad 11, I think.
That is a solid 11 actually, and I would be scared to face that bowling lineup. To be fair, I think. Yeah. That'd be game over. But well, thank you so much for your time, Adam. I appreciate it very much, and do definitely hope to catch you again. And I wish you a happy Christmas and a happy New Year if you don't cross paths.
You too, Dipesh. All the best.
Thank you.